going. And then I can share screen and I can go back to this. And then slideshow from the beginning. All right, folks. So today we're going to talk about protein. And this is a really important discussion because many people as we age do not eat enough protein. So normally if we were doing this live, I would be sharing some snacks with you and protein dishes, but I will just tell you about them. Just want to remind you that I'm not a healthcare professional. If you have questions about your diet, even though I know most primary care professionals aren't well versed in nutrition, you should talk to your doctor before changing your diet. Alrighty, so let's talk about what is protein. In order to understand what protein is, you need to know what macronutrients are, and you may already know this. Macronutrients are a group of nutrients that provide calories or energy. And we need these macronutrients for growth, for metabolism, for our body functions. And we need these nutrients in large quantities. That's why we call them macro, because macro means large. There are several types of macronutrients. Hang on one second. Here we go. And the first type of macronutrient, which you all know, are carbohydrates. And carbohydrates include fruits, vegetables, anything made out of grain, and anything made out of sugar is a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are really important. That is the primary source of energy for your daily activities. And not only for daily activities, carbohydrates, let me just let this person in the waiting room, carbohydrates also are important for your brain. Carbohydrates, when you digest them, produce sugar or glucose, and that is the primary source of energy for the brain. So carbohydrates are important because they're the fuel that every cell in our body uses. Okay, hang on. The second macronutrient is fat. And fat is found in things like nuts. Omega-3 fat is found in things like fish, avocados, all of your vegetable oils, olive oils. Fat is very important. All of the cells in your body have a little wall around them to hold the contents of the cell, and that little wall is made out of fat. Many hormones are made out of fat, like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. You know that fat protects your organs, and also certain vitamins, D, E, A, and K, if you don't eat them with fat, your body will not absorb the vitamins. So fat's important. And the final macronutrient, which is the one we're going to talk about today, is protein. Protein is found in legumes like kidney beans, chickpeas, eggs, most dairy products, fish, meat, chicken. Protein is the most important nutrient needed for muscle building. Your muscles are primarily made out of protein. Let's talk a little bit more about the other macronutrients. So macronutrients are the only nutrients that provide calories. For example, water doesn't provide you calories, salt has no calories, potassium, though minerals and vitamins, they don't have any calories. Carbohydrates has 4 calories in every gram. Fat has 9 calories in every gram, which is the reason why you need fat, but you need to limit the amount. And protein has 4 calories in every gram. If you were wanting to figure out how many calories there are in 4 ounces of chicken, 4 ounces of chicken is 100 grams. So if 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, take 100 grams of chicken times 4 is 400 calories. So you know when you look at labels on the back of food and it tells you how many calories are in them, this is how they calculate it. All right. So let's talk about why it's so important to have protein. It's an important nutrient. We all need it on a daily basis, and it contributes to many body functions. I'm not going to talk too much chemistry, but protein is made up of something called amino acids. I'm sure you've heard of that before. And amino acids are used by your body to make muscle, to repair tissue, to make new cells. That is the primary function of the nutrient protein in your body. So let's talk about how this happens, okay? So here's a nice juicy steak, which has lots of protein. So you sink your teeth into the steak or eggs or beans, and the protein in your mouth, there are enzymes in your mouth that start to break the protein down into amino acids. It goes into your stomach. That process continues until the protein is broken down into amino acids, and those amino acids are distributed through your blood in your body to work on things like this, building muscle. I go to the gym and I don't see any men my age that look like this, but anyway, it would be nice. Muscles. Amino acids build and repair muscle. So amino acids are a form of protein. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate and the more calories you burn. For example, I weigh like 150 pounds, and some people look at me and say, wow, that's a lot of weight for you. But the fact is, I have a lot of muscle, and so muscle is more dense than fat, and so I'm heavier. 1 pound of muscle burns 16 calories. 1 pound of fat burns 0 calories. So the more muscle you have on your body, the more calories you burn. The more calories you burn, the higher your metabolic rate. So what's really important, particularly as we age, is not what our weight is, it's how much muscle we have as compared to how much fat we have. We want to have more muscle and less fat. What's another important purpose of protein in our diet? Red blood cells, blood. Hemoglobin is a protein in red blood cells. It's very important. Hemoglobin carries oxygen to all the cells in your body, and hemoglobin is made out of protein. Your bones, your skeleton, how does protein help them? Bones. 30% of your bone is made of something which is called collagen. And collagen is another type of protein. Your hair and your nails. Ladies, if you go to the hairdresser, you may use shampoo, or they may use shampoo made out of keratin. Your hair and your nails are made out of keratin, and keratin is a protein, and it's constantly made from amino acids. So keratin is very important for healthy hair and nails. So protein, eat your protein, you'll have good hair and nails. Your immune system. Protein is very important in your immune system. Amino acids make antibodies. You know, antibodies help us fight illness, particularly important right now in this COVID-19 pandemic. We want to make sure our body is producing plenty of antibodies to fight off a virus. So amino acids are protein broken down. They make antibodies. What else does protein do for us? Protein helps us stop being hungry. When you eat protein, it's harder to digest than fat or carbohydrates. So when you eat protein, it takes your body double the calories to digest it. We also digest it very slowly. So when you eat protein, you tend to feel less hungry. When you eat carbohydrates, They're digested very quickly, and you feel hungry like an hour or so after you've had carbohydrates. Protein can help you lose weight. Why? Because again, protein, when you eat it, you feel really full, and you feel full for a long time. Protein slows down the digestion process, so you're less likely to go back for seconds. So if you eat a diet higher in protein, you're going to tend to eat less calories, which will help you lose weight. Another incredibly important purpose for protein in your diet is to help you recover after surgery. Remember, the only thing that grows new cells is protein, not fat, not carbohydrate. So you would need lots of protein when you're recovering from surgery or healing from an injury or wound. If you've been in the hospital, you know that often after surgery or when you're not well, they recommend that you take Boost or Ensure. What are they? Those are drinks that have lots of extra protein in them because your healthcare provider knows after surgery, often you don't feel like eating. And they need to make sure you're getting plenty of protein so that your body heals. So you should have received an article which tells you what the top sources of protein are, but I am going to review that with you. There are both animal and plant sources of protein. You know, my mom will often say to me, Yvonne, I don't want to eat meat. You don't have to eat meat to get protein. Lots of ways you can get it. So let's look at some lean, healthy sources of protein, all of which are pictured here, like chicken, fish, steak or beef that doesn't have too much fat in it, eggs. These are sources of protein. One of the very best sources of protein you can get is fish. And we're fortunate here because you can get plenty of stuff like salmon at Hannaford's. Really, really good source of protein. Other good sources of protein are dairy products. All dairy products have protein. They also have fat. So if you're going to buy dairy products and you want to get your protein from something like yogurt, go with the low-fat types. So your best sources of protein are seafood, fatty fish, low-fat dairy products like yogurt, cheese, and milk all have protein. So how much protein do these things have in them? I'm hoping I gave you an article on this. So under 5 grams of protein, you get protein like half a cup of oatmeal, broccoli, whole grain bread. Getting up into the 10 grams, which is more protein, milk, cheese, nuts, an egg, a medium egg. 15 grams low-fat cottage cheese. Great source of protein, and it's really delicious if you mix it with some fruit. Beans, like kidney beans, chickpeas, things like that. Peanut butter, 3 tablespoons will give you 15 grams of protein. Tofu, I'm not a fan of tofu, but it is a good source of protein. And now getting up into your higher proteins, obviously meat, fish, those kinds of things, they're much higher in protein than cheese and beans. So tuna, again, you don't need to eat a huge amount, 2 ounces. Beef or chicken, turkey, Greek yogurt, 8 ounces of Greek yogurt will have 20 grams of protein. Fabulous source of protein. Greek yogurt actually has more protein in it than regular or conventional yogurt. And the reason for it, it's strained differently than other yogurts, and that the straining process ensures that the protein is left in the yogurt. Remember, yogurt's made out of milk. Milk has protein, but when they make most yogurts, they strain the protein out. All right, here there's some issues with protein. Unlike fat and carbohydrate, you know, your body can store fat, right? We store it right around our bellies. It can also store carbohydrates. Your body cannot store protein. So if you haven't eaten protein, there will be no protein in your blood, and your brain has no reservoir to draw upon when it needs a new supply to make new eye cells or bone cells or repair an injury. So you have to eat protein so that your body has an adequate amount, because it doesn't store it, to do the things it needs to do. The good news is that most of the food we eat, almost all the food we eat, has some amount of protein in it. I'm going to do a little chemistry for you. Proteins are made up of 20 different amino acids, okay? 11 of the amino acids are non-essential. That means your body can actually make them from other things. So we don't need to get them from food. That's 11 of the amino acids. Unfortunately, the remainder, which I think is 9 of amino acids, your body cannot make. So we call them essential amino acids. The only way to get them is by eating high quality protein foods. So any kind of protein source, any protein food that has all 9 of these essential amino acids, which our body absolutely needs, are called complete proteins. Foods with all essential amino acids are complete proteins. All of your meat products are complete proteins. They have these 9 amino acids that our body cannot make. All plant and animal products contain protein, okay? Animal proteins are generally thought to be higher quality proteins because they have all essential amino acids that we need for growth and life. They contain protein also in larger amounts. So if you're going to try to get your protein from plants, you got to eat a lot of it to get the same amount of protein that you would get by eating animal sources. Incomplete proteins, most plants, they have protein in them, but typically they're deficient of 1 or more of those 9 essential amino acids, and we classify them as incomplete proteins. The soybean is the exception. Soy is a plant protein. It is a complete protein. It is as high in protein as any animal protein. So let's talk a tiny bit about soy. Magic or tragic bean? Lots of controversy about soy. The primary function of soy in most people's diets is to provide a lean, meat-free protein. So many of you vegetarians eat soy because they don't want to eat meat. There's something called the Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score. And it's a score that nutritionists use to measure how much protein is in food we eat. Eggs, milk, and soy all score a score of 1, which is the best possible score. Beef scores 0.92 and peanuts score 0.52. So you can see that soy has even more quality protein in it than beef. The FDA says that soy is a complete protein. Somebody needs to mute. Please make sure you mute. So the FDA says soy is a complete protein. Uh-oh. Nick, can you mute your iPad? Hello? Nick?
Yeah.
Can you mute? You can. How do I do that? I think you can.
How do I do that?
Hang on 1 second, folks. We'll get back to soy. Who is it? Nick. Thank you. We got it. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. How do I get rid of this now? Just close it?
Yeah, just the view, but the little view things.
Oh, where's the view thing? Hang on, folks.
Sorry.
Hide this show.
Yeah, it's the little mini button.
What mini
Far
button?
left.
Up here?
Nope.
It's this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Minimize. Got it.
Minimize.
All right. So back to our discussion about soy. Soy, most people eat it because they don't want to eat meat, right? So From a purely nutrient standpoint, soy is a good way to get protein. But here's the thing. You do not want to buy soy sausage or fake bacon or fake chicken. Because think about this. If they're going to make a soybean taste like chicken, what are they going to have to do to it? They're going to have to add a whole bunch of chemicals to it. And typically what they do in these fake soy meats is add a ton of salt. So a soy burger, one that's you can basically tolerate, has 230 milligrams of salt, 10% of the recommended daily allowance. And the Boca Burger, All-American Classic, has 500 milligrams of salt. That's a lot of salt in a burger because a 2.5-ounce beef patty only has 55 milligrams of salt. So if you are thinking you want to put more soy in your diet, because it does have a high amount of protein, stick with tofu, which doesn't have all the added chemicals in it, or soy milk. But don't be going for these meat substitutes. You don't need all those extra chemicals and salt in your diet. So, complete proteins. These are the ones that have all 9 of the essential amino acids. What foods do we find them in? We find them in animal products like meat, fish, low-fat dairy, eggs, soybeans, and quinoa. And I'll talk a little bit about quinoa later. Incomplete proteins, just as their name suggests, there are proteins in nuts, seeds, and grains. They do have protein, but they don't have all those 9 essential amino acids that our body needs and our body can't make. All right, so a quick rule of thumb is this. If you combine 2 different proteins, you can create a complete protein meal. What does that mean? I know that probably sounds confusing. You should have received a copy of this article also. So what you can do in this case, if you look on the left side, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Peanut butter is a plant protein, right? So it's incomplete. It doesn't have all those 9 amino acids. It has about 8 grams of protein. If you spread that on a whole wheat English muffin, you add another 6 grams of protein, you complete it, and there you go, you've got a complete protein. Half a cup of uncooked oatmeal has 6 grams of protein. If you mix that oatmeal with some skim milk or low-fat milk, add a little banana, you're going to add another 5 grams of protein. So you can see that you can take plant proteins and you can mix them with something else so you can get a complete protein. A 1/4 cup of black beans has 4 grams of protein. If you stuff those beans with some cheese, put it in a whole wheat tortilla, now you've got 12 grams of protein. All right, and if you are somebody who has a smoothie, great idea to have unsweetened almond milk. Almonds have a lot of protein in them. Mix that with non-fat Greek yogurt and you're going to have a really excellent protein meal. All right, so we have animal proteins, we have plant proteins. Both of them have the same effect on your health. Think of this, gorillas are vegetarians. They do not eat meat. And they certainly develop lots of muscle. So you don't have to eat meat to get enough protein, to get enough muscle. So the question becomes, how much protein should I eat? And again, there's a lot of controversy about it. On the conservative level, the American Heart Association says women need 46 grams of protein a day, men 56 grams. I, for example, eat about 70 grams of protein a day. Nutritionists would say have 1 gram of protein for every 2 pounds of body weight. If I used to weigh 140 pounds, if I take 140 divided by 2, 70 grams of protein every day is what I should have in order to maintain my muscle, to make sure my body is producing of enough antibodies, that I'm producing enough collagen for my skeleton, that my hair and my nails are going to be healthy, those kinds of things. But here's the tough issue with protein. So you should be getting, 30 to 40 grams of protein every day, but getting enough protein isn't the only issue. How often you eat protein is as important as how much as you eat. Why? Because the key to stopping your body from losing muscle is to make sure you have protein at every single meal. Remember I told you at the beginning we can't store protein? So we can't store it. So we need to make sure every meal that we eat that we have a little bit of protein. And most of us don't do that. I don't know if you're like this, but typically for breakfast, most people don't have protein. They might have coffee and a bagel. At lunch, they might have a salad, but if they don't put something like tuna on it, there's no protein. Generally speaking, most of us tend to have most of our protein at dinner. That's when we eat our chicken or our pork or our fish, things like that. So most of us do get about 70 grams of protein daily, but we tend to eat most of it at dinner. And here is the huge problem. Your body can only metabolize or use 15 to 30 grams of protein, which is just over an ounce at any one time to build and repair tissue. So if you eat 70 grams of protein at dinner and you don't have any protein for the rest of the day, your body's only going to use 15 to 30 grams of the protein that you ate at dinner. Remember, you can't store protein. So if you eat more protein than you need at one meal, that protein can't be stored. Your body converts it to fat. If you don't eat enough protein and your body needs protein, where is it going to go to get the protein it needs? Your brain knows that your muscles are made out of protein. So let's say your brain says, oh, I need to make some new skin cells, and there's no protein in your bloodstream. Your brain will immediately go to your muscle cells, break down your muscle to get the protein that it needs. So if you don't eat enough protein, you're going to speed up the process of losing muscle. You need to eat protein at every meal. Your body needs a steady supply of protein. And that's why it's important to divvy up the protein throughout the day. So you want to aim for about 20 grams at meals, maybe 6 to 12 grams in 2 snacks. I believe I also had Sarah email you an article that tells you what that means. And the handout looks like this, because I know people don't really know how much 20 grams is. So I'm going to go through breakfast, morning snacks, and lunch and dinner and give you an idea about what kind of things you can eat to get the protein that you need. So what does this mean in terms of real food? We'll look at some buffet samples. All right, for breakfast, here's some ideas of how you can get an adequate amount of protein. If you like to have toast for breakfast, try to have whole wheat. Put on 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, you got 11 grams of protein, you're on your way to your 40. If you eat cereal, if you eat dry cereal, I would highly recommend Kashi Go Lean with skim milk. You're going to get 19 grams of protein, and I think that's 1.5 cups of cereal. Cheerios with skim milk, put some walnut halves on it. You're going to get 14 grams of protein. If you like eggs, make an omelet. I recommend using 1 whole egg and 2 egg whites so you don't get too much. As you know, the yolk of the egg contains cholesterol, but one egg with 2 egg whites will give you 12 grams of protein. So there's some ideas for breakfast. Let's look at some ideas for snacks. Nuts. Nuts are a great source of protein. You're talking about 1/4 cup. Remember, nuts are also a source of fat. Fat's very high in calories, so if you're going to have nuts as a snack, small amount. My husband usually has a vodka tonic when he comes home at night, and I give him about a handful of almonds to go with that. Cottage cheese, non-fat cottage cheese, 1/2 cup. If you put some fresh fruit on that, that's going to give you 14 grams of protein. Hummus. Hummus is a great source of protein. You can use it to dip your celery or carrots in, or have it with some whole wheat pita, 14 grams of protein. Again, non-fat yogurt, Greek yogurt, is a good source of protein. So those are good ideas of protein snacks. Let's talk about what you could eat for lunch and dinner. Obviously, turkey, 3 ounces, protein, 29 grams of protein right there in turkey. So if you're having a sandwich, having sliced turkey breast is a great idea. Quinoa, and I will talk more about quinoa later, but 1 cup of quinoa is kind of like a fluffy rice, has 10 grams of protein. If you like chili, you make your own or you buy it made, throw in some black beans or kidney beans, and that's going to give you more protein. Tuna, a half a cup of tuna, put it on your salad, going to give you 20 grams of protein. And any kind of meat, about a fist size, 3 ounces, skinless white chicken, fish, going to give you anywhere from 18 to 25 grams of protein. So there are some different ways that you can put protein in every meal. I've got somebody that I need to admit. Let me just admit them. Okay. All right, moving on. Hang on. One thing I want you to be aware of, let's say, hello, whoever you are, make sure that you mute. One thing to do is if you're gonna, let's say you listen to this class today and you say, gee, I need to eat more protein, I don't wanna lose muscle, I wanna maintain my bone density, etc. And you decide to increase the amount of protein you eat. If you're going to do that, drink plenty of water. Remember I told you when you eat protein, it takes a long time to digest. When you eat protein, the protein that's in your stomach and your digestive system is using up the water in your system for the digestion process. So you need to drink more water if you increase your protein intake. If you don't, you're going to get constipated and get hemorrhoids and all those nasty things. Now, the other caution is, if you are on a special diet for a medical condition, let's say you're on a kidney diet, you need to follow the instructions of your healthcare providers. Physicians, doctors will often order you, if you have a kidney or a liver problem, to eat a lower protein diet, because processing protein requires your kidneys and your liver to do a lot of work. So 2 cautions: if you are going to eat more protein, drink plenty of water. If you have kidney or liver problems, talk to your doctor before increasing your protein intake. So typically now in my class, I would give you all a break and provide you a high protein snack, but I can only tell you about it. So something I really recommend that's really easy to make is a chicken and white bean salad. And I should have emailed you the recipe. It's really easy. You can buy a chicken breast, okay, cut it up into small pieces, throw it in a pot of water, I don't know, for 3 to 4 minutes, not too long. Strain it, cool it. If you haven't diced it, dice it. When it's cool, add like a can of white beans. Make sure you take those beans, drain them, rinse them, get all the salt off them, add them in the chicken. Take a cucumber, peel it, slice it, add that to your chicken mixture, chop up a little onion, throw that in, okay? Now you're gonna make a little dressing to go on it. I recommend a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, quarter of a cup of lemon juice, some either fresh or dry basil leaves, a little salt and pepper, mix it up with a whisk or your fork, pour that over the chicken. It makes for a really delicious, low calorie, high protein salad, and you can put that on a little lettuce if you want, or a little spinach. I guarantee you it's easy to make, it's not expensive, and it's good, it tastes good. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to eat healthy and not have things taste good. So I'd like to return to talking about protein and the aging process. The things that I'm going to share with you are things that I wish I knew 30 years ago. Protein in the aging process. Every year you lose something And I'm not talking about your mind. I'm not even talking about your hair. What I'm talking about is your muscle. Once you hit the age of 40, that's for men and women, your lean muscle, your lean body mass, which is your muscle, starts to shrink about 8% each decade. This is all part of the natural aging process. By the time you're in your 70s, that shrinkage doubles to 15% per decade. And this loss of lean mass is primarily muscle tissue. So as we age, after the age of 40, we all naturally start losing muscle. Remember, 1 pound of muscle burns 16 calories. So as we lose muscle, what's happening? Our metabolism is getting slower and slower and slower, so we need to eat less and less. And the other issue is this: as we lose muscle, it is replaced with fat. And our metabolism is getting slower and slower, and we start to see our body composition change. The average person gains about 1 pound and 10 ounces of body fat per year after the age of 40. This phenomenon is called sarcopenia. You've all heard of osteopenia, right? Because that's loss of bone. Sarcopenia, it comes from the Greek word, it means vanishing flesh. Sarcopenia means loss of muscle. And our doctors don't often talk to us about this. This change in body composition as you age, your body starts to have more fat and has less muscle, and it contributes to several things. Impaired wound healing. Because you have less muscle, your body doesn't have the protein that it needs, your wounds won't heal as well. Your skin loses its elasticity, and you have a lesser ability to fight infection. That's why it's so really important that, after the age of 60, you want to really make sure that you're getting your flu, what do you call them? Not injections, but because you, as you're older, naturally don't have the ability to fight infection the same way you did when you were in your 30s. Now, the interesting thing is you can do something about this. That's what's so important to understand, because this loss of muscle and ability to fight, to produce antibodies, things like that, is not inevitable. So you lose muscle, which is called sarcopenia, for two reasons. First, as we get older, our body starts making less protein, which is what muscle is made out of. Secondly, because your body makes less protein and you need protein, the muscle you have gets broken down, right? So the first step to stopping the loss of muscle is to make sure you are eating enough protein. Research is very clear that eating more protein can compensate for the decrease in muscle, sarcopenia, and in doing so, protect against some of the high risks of aging. The second thing you need to do to stop yourself from losing muscle is to lift weights. I'm not suggesting that, like this lady here, I think she's 80. Each of those plates that she has is 45 pounds. I'm not suggesting you have to do this kind of weightlifting, but you do need to do resistance training 3 times a week, eat an adequate amount of protein, and you can slow down the process of losing muscle. Now, sadly, research clearly indicates that older adults don't eat enough protein. Many older people eat low protein diets because they eat a large amount of bread. This would be my mother. Bread, pasta, cooked vegetables, juices, and sweets. These are things she prefers. Some older adults don't eat protein because they think they have to eat meat, and meat can be hard to chew. And also, meat's expensive. It's a burden on your food budget. So just remember, you don't need to eat red meat to get protein. Red meat is a great source of protein. So if you're like me, I'm a carnivore. I do eat, I enjoy meat, but other foods like nuts, fish, beans, low-fat dairy, egg whites, soy foods like tofu, soybeans, you can buy them frozen at Hannaford's, peanut butter, chicken, skinless white poultry. These are all good sources of protein, and they're usually less expensive than red meat. I'd like to talk about milk. Milk has protein in it naturally, and it has two types of protein. One type is called whey protein. The other type is called casein protein. And what manufacturers can do is they can take protein from milk and they can dry it into a powder, and it's used as an ingredient to add to other foods that are low in protein, okay? So it's an additive. Whey protein is the best kind of milk protein to eat if you're going to consider having a supplement. Whey protein is a naturally complete protein. So it comes from milk and it's been dried and has all of those 9 essential amino acids. It's nothing new. It's been available for about 100 years, but recently it's been singled out as a superstar ingredient for other products. For instance, it's used for people to help them lose weight. Infant formulas are made out of whey protein, and people who need immune support are given whey protein. Whey protein is a high quality protein powder from cow's milk. And the reason it's better than casein is it's more soluble. So if you buy this dry whey protein powder and you mix it with water or something else, it mixes in a lot better. It is the most nutritious protein available. Whey protein is a great thing to have after you've exercised. About 20 minutes after you exercise, your muscle cells are open and they're receptive to receiving liquid protein. So a really great way to make sure you get protein is to drink a liquid protein drink. Whey I recommend because it's soluble, it's really easy to digest. And it provides your body those 9 essential amino acids that your body can't make. And this is one of the reasons it's a common ingredient in infant formula and protein supplements for medical use. You can buy whey protein in a canister. They look something like this. They're going to cost anywhere, one canister will provide you about 70 servings, and they'll cost you anywhere between $30 and $40. But they last a long time. Some things to look for if you decide you want to buy, you just don't feel like eating more protein, but you do want to get more protein in your diet, and you want a protein drink, do look at the nutrition label on the whey protein. So you want to look for whey protein isolate. Isolate means it doesn't have all kinds of other junk in there. I prefer to go with unflavored, but most people don't like that. So like if you want something like chocolate fudge whey protein, that's fine, and it really does taste good. You're gonna look for something that only has 100 calories in a serving. You don't want any fat in it. You don't want any cholesterol. The carbohydrate is going to be the sugar that they put in it to give you flavor, no more than 4 grams, right? Because you don't want something high in sugar. And you want to look and make sure there's 20 grams of protein. Because remember, you want to get an adequate amount of protein in one meal. So if you're going to have a protein drink as a meal, let's say for lunch or for breakfast, something like that, you want to make sure you're getting 20 grams of protein. I highly recommend this if you're somebody who doesn't eat enough protein. Let's talk a little bit about quinoa. And again, I had Sarah email you an article on quinoa. I usually like to pass it out in my class, but I can't do that. Quinoa, it's an ancient food. It's not all that well known in North America, but it's been around in South America for at least 3,000 years BC, and it's been a staple food for many native peoples. Quinoa, you can see on the left side, this is what it looks like. It kind of looks a little bit like barley, and then when you cook it, it kind of fluffs up. It looks a little bit like rice. The quinoa seed is high in protein, calcium, and iron. It's a good source of vitamin E and several of the vitamin B vitamins. It's a complete protein, has all 9 of those essential amino acids like the soybean. Half a cup of quinoa will provide a child all the protein it needs for one day. So it's a really healthy food to eat. How do you prepare it? Usually what I do is I go to Hannaford's and I look where the rice is, and I will buy a box of quinoa that's mixed with white rice and brown rice, because my family, I'm not sure if they'll love it. So pretty much what you do is you just, like you cook rice. You put it in some water, you boil it, usually about 15 minutes, and your quinoa is cooked. What can you do with it? If you eat soup, even if you eat canned soup, throw it in your soup, throw it in your casserole, throw it in your stew. You can also make a quinoa salad, just like you would make a rice salad. So again, I usually cook the quinoa, that's the mix package that I get from Hannaford's, and I will make a quinoa salad. And I think I gave you a recipe I did, a walnut rosemary quinoa. And pretty much I make the quinoa, chop up some onion, a little bit of red bell pepper, and I put a little sesame oil in it, a little soy and rosemary, and I'll throw in some frozen peas and maybe some walnuts. And it makes for a really yummy salad, and I know my family's getting a good amount of protein, and they don't even realize it. All right, let's talk a little bit about eggs. Eggs have gotten such a bad rap over the year. My dad eventually died of congestive heart failure, and he lived through all those things like don't eat butter, eat margarine, don't eat eggs, and all this stuff. So let's talk a little bit about eggs. To produce an egg, it takes a hen about 24 hours, and the average hen lays 300 to 325 eggs per year. So if you want eggs, get yourself a chicken. As the hen grows older, she produces larger eggs. So your jumbo eggs and your extra large eggs came from an old hen. An egg, it's a really healthy food. It has all 9 of those essential amino acids that our body can't make. So egg protein has just the right mix of essential amino acids needed by people to build tissue. It's second only to mother's milk when it comes to human nutrition. Eggs are also one of the few foods they can naturally contain vitamin D, and it's hard to find food that has vitamin D. One large egg has about 80 calories. The calories are primary in the yolk. The yolk has 60 calories. The egg white has 20. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about cholesterol and eggs, because that's what everybody's worried about. Dietary guidelines recommend eating only 100 to 300 milligrams of cholesterol a day. One large egg contains 186 milligrams of cholesterol. The cholesterol is in the yolk. That's why often people recommend that you eat egg whites, because you're not getting the cholesterol. On the other hand, most of the protein is in the yolk. So if you're concerned about reducing calories or fat and cholesterol, you want to have more egg whites and fewer yolks. So that's where I recommend having one full egg and then add an egg white to it. You won't notice the difference, and you're going to keep your cholesterol down. One egg a day is not going to hurt you. All right, let's talk about all this new in stuff. Organic, free range, all these things that marketing tries to tell us to do, right? Let's talk about certified organic eggs. Follow the USDA's National Organic Program regulations. These regulations mean in order to be certified organic eggs, that means the hen has to have outdoor access. They can't use any pesticides, and they have to give the hen organic feed, okay? Free range is not a regulated term, but it's generally used to describe eggs from hens that have outdoor access. White and brown eggs, what's the difference? Is one better than the other? No, they just come from different breeds of hen. Okay, now you know that eggs get graded A, or B grade. What does that mean? You can see this is the inside of an egg, and at the very top is a little air bubble, right? So the AA eggs have the smallest air bubble, but I can't say this, air bubble, and the B eggs have a larger air bubble. Other things about the grades. The grades are indicators of the quality of the egg, and it includes internal and external quality. Internal quality is the size of that air cell, the thickness of the contents, and lack of defects. Like sometimes you'll get an egg and you'll see a little blood spot in it. Your top quality eggs don't have blood spots in them. The external quality of the egg will be the cleanliness, the soundness, and the shape of the shell. So generally speaking, AA are better quality eggs than B grade eggs. The color and the grade of the eggs don't really affect your nutrition. Some eggs are nutritionally different, but those are eggs that have been fortified with added nutrients like folic acid and omega-3. And how do they fortify the eggs? The hens are typically fed flaxseed. And when the hens are fed flaxseed, the egg is going to have more omega-3 and folic acid. Some people argue that eggs from grass-fed hens have healthier nutritional profiles. There's no evidence to suggest that that is true. So if the egg has been fortified by what they feed the hen, flaxseed is what they have to give them, then it would be more nutritious. Otherwise, color and grade of eggs don't affect nutrition. Let's talk a little bit about cooking eggs. If you cook eggs, whether you're making an omelet, a scrambled egg, or whatever, always cook it on low heat. The higher the heat, it's going to make the egg more rubbery. If you want your eggs to be nice and light and fluffy, let's say you're making an omelet or scrambling eggs, don't use cream or milk. Mix them with water. That's going to keep the product a lot fluffier. Milk products tend to harden the yolk, and they also add calories that you don't need. How do you know how old an egg is? Here's an old-fashioned trick. Get yourself a glass jar, okay, and put the egg in it. Fill it with cold water and put the egg in it. If the egg lies on its side, as in the prior picture, it's fresh. If it tilts on an angle, it's about 3 to 4 days old. If it stands upright, it's 10 days old. And if it floats to the top of that jar, don't eat it. That's how you tell how old eggs are. Eggs age more in 1 day at room temperature than 1 week in the refrigerator. So eggs absolutely should be refrigerated. That will help them stop aging. Okay, hopefully you got this article. I sent an article out on protein tips. So let's talk about how you can increase protein in your diet. For less fat and protein foods, obviously if you're eating chicken, you want to take the skin off the chicken, remove the fat from your steak or from your turkey. You just want to get the meat, the protein. Grilling, broiling, or baking meat instead of frying is obviously a good way to ensure you're going to get protein and not get all the bad stuff that goes with frying. Here's a good trick. Powdered milk, non-fat, instant dry milk. You can add, remember, milk has protein in it, right? So powdered milk is high in protein. You can add that to soup, gravies, and you can add it to all kinds of things, and that's going to give you more protein. It's a nice trick. Remember, Greek yogurt, very high in protein. If you like sour cream on your potatoes, see if you can switch to Greek yogurt. Sour cream is totally not good for you. It is saturated fat, which is bad for your heart. So if you could try to, if you're making a dip or something, try mixing Greek yogurt with dried vegetable soup or onion soup or whatever you do instead of sour cream. If you like oatmeal, make it with milk instead of water, and that way you're going to increase your protein. There's no question about it that protein is your body's own Superman. It is needed by everyone on a daily basis to build muscle, to maintain your immune system, to make sure you have enough collagen in your bones, to make sure your health and nails are healthy. If you don't eat enough protein, your body will break down your muscle cells to get the protein it needs to build new cells. Really, really important to understand that. So you should be eating between 45 and 70 grams of protein every day. You want to aim for about 30, no more than 30 grams of protein at a meal. Remember, if you eat more than 30 grams, your body can't use it. It's just going to store it as fat. You don't need to eat meat to get protein, but try to eat it at every single meal. There is very clear research that indicates protein will help you stay strong and healthy as you age. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm hoping that you found this an interesting presentation, and I look forward to our next session.
Hey, Yvonne,
Yes, Bill.
I didn't see that combo slide in what we had been sent.
You didn't see the combo slide, so let me
Yeah,
write a
You
note.
said that you thought it might be sent, but I looked and I couldn't
You
find it.
couldn't find it. Okay, combo slide. I am going
Yep.
to make sure I send that to Sarah, and I will ask her to email it.
And as well as this presentation.
As well as this
great
presentation. Yep, protein.
I needed to review. These are so good.
Oh,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. It's my pleasure.
I'm
Absolutely.
going to
my
make
pleasure.
this Mediterranean salad tonight.
Let me know if you like it. Next time we chat, let me know. Hi, Connie.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
A question,
Yes, go ahead. Who's that? Paula?
Connie,
Bonnie.
Connie,
Connie. Yes, Connie.
the oatmeal, the old fashioned and the 2.5 minute, what is the difference between the two?
Old fashioned is what you should be eating. The 2.5 minutes has been processed. And therefore, it's going to, when you eat the 2.5 minute oatmeal, it's digested very quickly and turned into glucose in your bloodstream. It's going to raise your blood sugar very high. The old-fashioned steel oats has fiber in it that hasn't been taken out. So when you eat it, you digest it slowly and you don't raise your blood sugar levels.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Hope to see you again soon.
I look forward to it. My pleasure. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.